Hi, I'm Carly Reid from CX Today, bringing you all the latest news and conversation from the customer experience technology industry. Now, today I'm talking to Andy from Cirrus, and we'll be discussing employee experience. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, Carly. Hi. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, really good to be here.
Lovely to have you with us today, Andy. Thanks for joining us. So, Andy, thanks for coming on the show today. How about we kick off with a quick intro? Tell us about what you do.
Tell us about what you do. So I work for Cirrus Response. We are a CCaaS vendor, been around for about 14 years, and I work as a success manager within the organization, which is effectively, I look after accounts, I look after clients that have been onboarded and are successfully using our services. So I'm an account manager by any other name. And my experience, I cut my teeth in contact centers. I did 20 years in contact centers before I moved over to the technology side. So I've got a perspective from both sides of the table.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Andy. So, what's causing high staff turnaround in contact centres currently, and what do you think can be done to combat this?
Okay, that's a really good question. So, high turnover of staff in contact centers. It's actually a very traditionally it's a much ignored problem, if I'm really brutally honest. And high turnover is almost assumed that you will have high turnover in contact centers. It's viewed as a relatively menial job. It's sort of entry level often. It's not particularly well paid, and it can be particularly mundane, which leads to a lot of burnout and boredom. The pandemic has actually focused, and I'm going to use the COVID environment a little bit to frame it a bit deeper, if you don't mind. The pandemic has focused a lot on how agents are delivering really key and crucial experiences to customers and helping businesses get through those last challenging 18 months. And also there's that underlying concern and worry about job stability. So turnover has actually decreased during the pandemic. However, it's highlighted the crucial role that agents play. Now, as far as I'm concerned, okay, if I look at it in cold, hard facts, if I'm going into a business as a contact center agent and I have ambitions and I want to grow and I want to develop within the industry, dealing with really mundane, monotonous questions repeatedly, because 80% of your demand is made up of your top 20 answers. And that's true of most of the contact centers that I've ever had experience with, right? So it becomes quite repetitious. If I'm dealing with all of the same questions over and over again, I'm going to get quite bored and I'm not going to feel as though I'm being challenged, right? So there's a couple of things that I believe contact centers can do to help keep their employees engaged and reduce turnover. One of those is develop what we call a skills matrix. Skills matrix is identify the different things that your agents can bring to the table. And if you start treating your contact center as a nursery for the rest of the business, whether that's to go off into the marketing department, technology, or even sales, identify a skills matrix so that when opportunities arise within the larger business, you can actually tap the contact center like in a sort of a feeding ground for the rest of the business. That's a way of reducing turnover, but actually in a positive way, right? So it's positive retention. Then the second way that you can do it is make the job more interesting. And what do I mean by that? Remove the white noise as much as you possibly can. All of the agents that I've had experience with, Carly, largely on a main, really like to get to grips with the complex issues. Okay? They want something meaty to get their teeth into, so to speak. So if I'm dealing with the, hello, what time do you open? How do I process a refund? What's your T's and C's? How do I do this? How do I do where, what, when, why? If that's all that's coming down the pipe and I'm dealing with that on a daily basis, I'm going to get bored and want to move on. So if I can remove that white noise from the agent's environment and give them the really meaty stuff, I've got the potential of making that role more interesting. And there's a second part to this. By doing some element of automation, by putting in technology, I'm not going to sit here and say buy stuff, but by automating process, so you can take that weight off an agent's shoulder, you're actually introducing an element of complexity into the business, which gives the agents a different avenue of development to explore as well. So technology, not for technology's sake, but something that they can learn, platforms that they can get to grips with, because that stuff needs maintenance, that stuff needs adapting, that stuff needs actual mastery. Yeah, so you can open up a different avenue of development for your agents. So ultimately, if I'm answering the question, make the environment richer, identify your skills, put in some tech that they can learn. Before you know it, you've actually got much longer tenure meaning that you're not going to be hiring and recruiting so often because it's not a revolving door. The mundane, it's like death by a thousand cuts, right? So, Carly, if you had to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, your boredom level will go through the roof, right?
Yeah.
Exactly the same principle in a contact center. You can help facilitate a more engaging and richer environment.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Andy. And you touched on this a little bit in that answer, but do you think that the pandemic has highlighted the need for better employee experience?
Has the pandemic highlighted the need for better? Well, controversially, I think businesses have been compelled to look at the employee experience. If we look at the pressure that you've put people under in the pandemic, we've been asked to work from home. We don't have the traditional support network that we would have by going into the office. Those water cooler moments, those quick asides when everything's getting a little bit too much, right? So businesses are having to focus on looking after their employees' mental health a little bit better. So there's been a spotlight on that. Contact center agents have become almost key workers for businesses. So you're not able to go into the high street shop and ask questions. You're being forced either to go onto a web chat or onto the phone or turn to email because our environment has been affected very badly by the pandemic, meaning that we're more closeted and contained. So everything's being amplified into an agent's environment and life, right? So they're getting more stress coming through the phones because of the uncertainty of the world that we're in. People are being put under pressure externally, which then is highlighted by the pressure you're putting under agents from a business to be able to deliver these experiences. So yes, the pandemic has forced us to look at the employee experience because generally mental health and well-being is a real focus. Now, what we don't want to happen is when the lens starts to turn and we get into this new normal, whatever that might be, this hybrid working, whatever sort of environment that the businesses are sort of entering into now, what we don't want to happen is that focus to then turn back to pure profit and business and productivity and efficiency, right? We want the employee experience to be absolutely front and center of what we do. Why? Because it's highlighted how crucial delivering that element of customer experience is by having well looked after, supported employees. So customer experience and employee experience, often people say, oh, they're really linked. There are links, but customer experience isn't wholly dependent on the employee experience. There are elements which are linked, in my opinion. But if you have a well-supported, engaged, happy agent, the areas they then influence directly impact the customer experience. Now, and this is something which I just get really upset about when I see companies not investing in their agents. It gets back to the retention. It gets back to keeping them engaged and happy so that they stay with you longer. They're more productive and they're happier. One thing the pandemic has done, and it's almost a byproduct, which is assisting employee experience, is accelerate businesses' use of automation. And I've said this before, get rid of the white noise. If I'm getting rid of the white noise coming down the pipe into the agent's environment by automating processes, putting systems which are integrated from the contact center into back office technologies, into logistics systems, into your CRM, so you can take that pressure off answering the mundane, then I can invest properly in the employee experience. Now, cold, hard, black and white, from a resource planning perspective, and we're going to get technical about it, taking agents off the phone, Carly, and you know this, right? There are numbers that drive productivity and how businesses assess how a contact center is being run. It's called shrinkage. How much time am I as a business going to factor into an employee's day to look after them? By removing the white noise, by putting in decent automation, that could be workforce management platforms, that could be speech analytics, that could be a well-built, robust omni-channel platform. There are all sorts of different agent assist mechanisms that you can put into place that will elevate the time that they have to focus on the experience and also give them a little bit more breathing space. That's when you start to get a proper employee experience. Don't drown them in processes by giving them archaic systems that are difficult to use, that are complex and ugly. You put something nice in front of them that's easy to use, then you'll elevate the experience and give them the bandwidth and the space to be able to deliver the experience that you want. It's all linked. I mean, there isn't a silver bullet, Carly, but businesses, I'm hoping, maintain that because we've seen that developing in the pandemic. And it really does boil down to a very simple thing of automation. I'm ranting and I'm sorry, but I get passionate about this stuff.
Not at all, not at all, Andy. My question was, do you think that companies are really listening to their employees when it comes to EX, though?
I have a lot of exposure to different businesses, both public sector and private sector. And there has been a growing and sustained trend, admittedly over the last 18 months, of focusing on delivering better environments and a better experience from employees. So all the signs are good from what I can see. Now, part of that could be that businesses are being compelled to accelerate some of their technology decisions. And it's almost as if the employee experience is a byproduct of it. But do you know what? If it's a byproduct, I'll take it because it means businesses are actually investing in things which make the employee experience better. So hopefully it's altruistic, but I'm also a pragmatist. And I think it's probably driven by underlying core economics. But the byproduct is you get better employee experience. So I'm going to buy into that 100%. So yes, in answer to your question.
Fantastic stuff. And Andy, just tell us about super agents. What are they and why are they so important to us?
Oh, what's a super agent? Again, this all ties back into the idea of letting agents do what they really want to do. Give them the tools to do their job. I've worked with all sorts of different agents with differing levels of experience, and something that's held true in all of the different contact centers that I've been involved with and helped set up and run, the career agents really feel as though their mission is to make your customer's life better. And they like to be able to take a meaty, complex issue and really work to resolution, right? So they want to be able to satisfy the customer. Sometimes you have to give them bad news. Yes, you do. But they really want to take that customer experience and bring it to a resolution. Yeah, something which makes the customer happy and then also keeps the business happy. Now, if we're looking at super agents, you've got two different angles that I tend to sort of examine. You've either got a super agent who is a master of the technology, so they can answer inquiries over the phone, web chat, email, they can do all of the channels, right? So almost they're technologically super agents, and so they're hyper adept at being able to use the platforms, or they're super in the field that they specialize in. So as far as I'm concerned, a super agent is somebody who is really experienced in an area that could mean complaint handling, as an example, as a skill. That could also mean that they're brilliant at the sales angle. So super agents, depending on where you go, they're more specialists. The technology allows them to focus on delivering the experience, but I don't want you to think that this means that you're a jack of all trades. You know, you put one agent in and they're brilliant in everything. No, super agents are specialists in very specific areas of business process, but they just have that broad knowledge to be able to assist the less experienced ones coming through the pipe, so to speak. I have no idea if that answers your question, but you've got the two levels, mastery of technology and then mastery of the experience.
It does very much answer my question. Thank you, Andy. Andy, I have
Welcome.
really enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Carly. I'm hoping that you got some sense out of me. You can probably tell I'm quite passionate about this stuff, and
I can,
yeah,
definitely. But it's lovely to have you with us. So that's it from us. If you've enjoyed our conversation, then please do give us a shout out on social. And if you're a CX fan and want to see more like this, then you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at cxtoday.com. I'm Carly Reid from CX Today. Thanks for watching.